let's get going here. Let's start talking about boundaries. So today's training is about helping you with setting boundaries, whether you're actually out there dating or you're starting to think about dating and you want to make sure you have your ducks in a row and you're fully prepared to go out there. So let's start with the very basics. What are boundaries? Boundaries are limits that you set with other people. It's a process of going internally and deciding, what am I okay with and what am I not okay with? And if someone hits up against those boundaries, those limits, you express it. You say, this is not okay. I don't like this. I don't tolerate this. That's what boundaries are. So, it is so important to set healthy boundaries when it comes to dating. This sets the tone for creating a healthy relationship. So first step here, when it comes to dating, what you need to do is figure out what your boundaries are. That's the first thing that you need to do. It is the most important thing. Figure out what your boundaries are. Because if you were like me, when I didn't do this process, I just went into dating and kind of just wung it. Like, I would go on dates and in the moment, I would try to figure out what I was okay with and what I wasn't okay with, and it was really tough because when you're out there and you're feeling, like you're excited, the hormones are flowing, you feel a connection with someone, it's like, well, maybe I'm just gonna sleep with this person on the second date, when really ordinarily I wouldn't do that and I wouldn't feel good about it. So it's so important to get really clear on this before you go out dating. So Karen is saying, yes, exactly, I've been doing the same thing. Yeah, I think many of us do this. So what I had to do was backtrack. I had to backtrack and figure out, okay, what are my non-negotiables? What am I good with? And then go out dating. Oh, hi, Renelle from South Africa. So cool. Okay. So what kind of boundaries do you want to think about? So we're going to get really specific here. One of the first things that you want to think about when it comes to boundaries is, what am I actually looking for? What do I want out of dating? And I say this because it's so easy to get pulled into casual dating if you're looking for something serious, or a situationship if you're looking for something serious, right? Let me know if you've been there, if you've gotten you've just fallen into something that was casual when that's not really what you were looking for. Now, it's okay if you want something casual, but before you go out there dating, you want to be very clear on what you want. So if you're looking for a serious relationship, that's going to be your boundary. And if someone you encounter, someone you're talking to says, yeah, I'm really not interested in looking for something serious. I'm more interested in something casual. That's going to be a deal breaker. That's where your boundary comes in. Your boundary saves you from wasting a lot of your time and energy on the wrong people. Does this make sense so far? Hi, Bonali. Yeah, so that's one of the first things you want to get clear on. If you're interested in just casual dating and someone comes to you and they're looking for something serious, that's going to hit up against that boundary. You guys are not going to be compatible. So just like you don't want to get taken advantage of, you don't want to take advantage of someone either and waste someone's time when you're not on the same page. So that's the first thing you want to get clear on. The second most important boundary, in my opinion, these I've ranked them as far as what I feel are the most important things that you need to address as far as boundaries when it comes to dating. These are the things that worked for me, and these are the things that I teach my clients to do as well. So let me just address something. Ronald is saying, I did, but I wanted it casual, 20 months on, and now I want something more, but I know it won't be with him. Yeah, Ronald, sometimes that happens too. Sometimes we go in thinking we want something else, and then we change our mind. And that's the thing to remember with boundaries too. Boundaries are not meant to be, this is how I feel forever and ever. Boundaries change. So if your boundary at one point is, I want something casual, but then it changes to, I want something serious, that's perfectly normal, that's perfectly okay, and that's when you start communicating. Like in this situation, you would want to communicate with this person, see if they're on the same page. If they're not, you might not be able to hang out together anymore, but maybe they would be. You never know. But boundaries can change, so thank you for bringing that up. That's something else important to know. So this next most important boundary has to do with physical intimacy. This is very important to get clear on before you start dating, because like I talked about, it can be very easy to just fall into something and go with the flow and not really feel good about it later on. So before you go out there and date, get clear. How comfortable am I with physical intimacy early on? Do I want to have sex right away? Do I want to wait 5 or 6 dates? Do I want to wait 10 plus dates? How do I feel about it? This also could change from time to time. If you're still in the healing process and you're not feeling super confident, you're feeling maybe a little bit vulnerable, maybe you're going to want to wait 10 plus dates before you're physically intimate with someone. But if you're feeling really good and you want to just get out there and have some fun, maybe you're going to wait 2 dates. Maybe you're going to just go for it on the first night. There's no right or wrong answer here. It's just, what do you feel comfortable with? And then the hardest part is you stick to it. So people would ask me, well, how do you stick to it? Like, what do you do when you're in the heat of the moment and you're liking someone and you're enjoying the physical interaction, but you don't want to take it too far? So here's something that I advise my clients to say, and you can take this and use it too. You can say something like, you can stop what you're doing, and you can say, hey, this is really fun. I am enjoying whatever it is you're doing, but I just want you to know I don't sleep with someone until I'm, whatever your boundary is, until I'm exclusive with someone, until it's been X number of dates. But in the meantime, I'm totally down to do other stuff, whatever it is that you want to do, X, Y, Z. And you frame it like that. So you're not shutting the door on intimacy altogether and risking someone thinking you're just not interested in it at all, but you're stating your limit. You're stating your boundary very clearly. Hey, I don't do this right away. Let's take our time, for example. And you leave it at that. The right person, if you are interested in a serious relationship, the right person will be totally okay with that. Maybe they're not super excited about it because they really did want to be with you right then, but they will be understanding and they'll be cool about it. They'll say, okay, yeah, let's wait till you're comfortable. The wrong person will have a problem with that. And ladies, this is where boundaries are going to be really key in helping you figure out in the dating process who is right for you and who is wrong for you. So what I tell the women that I work with, and I'm sharing here with you, is that if you get some pushback on your boundaries, if someone is saying, oh, come on, like, let's just do it, like, that's so silly, you don't need to wait. If you're getting any sort of pushback on that, this is not going to be a healthy partner for you. And so what I always teach is to remember that your boundaries are going to eliminate some people. And that is what we want. We want to weed out the people that are not going to be right for you, the people who will not respect your boundaries, the people who won't respect you in general, or who are maybe narcissistic or kind of just egocentric or selfish or pushy. They're not going to like these boundaries, and good. That's what they're for. That's what we want here. So let me take a pause here. Is this making sense to you guys so far? Let me just see what some of the comments are here. So yeah, Bonley's saying she does want a committed relationship. Yeah, so if you're someone watching this who does want a serious committed relationship, boundaries are going to be really, really key, because there are a lot of people out there who aren't interested in something serious, and you're going to want to weed them out. So that's something to really, really focus on. So Karen is saying, I struggled with communicating with the last person I was with. I felt like we were talking at each other instead of with each other. Karen, thanks for bringing that up. That's an important issue when it comes to compatibility. And if that's your experience with someone, you can bring it up and see if something can change. But that just could be that you're not really compatible, because you want to have someone who you feel like you can talk to, where you do feel like you're being heard. And sometimes it does take a little bit of adjusting. And you're the one that would know best here whether this was someone who you could adjust with and improve the communication, or if you're just like hitting a wall with that communication and they're not really opening to listening deeper or to making sure you're really feeling heard. So yeah, Karen, thanks for bringing that up. Okay, so let's see here. So Suzanne says, hi Suzanne, I don't like to give my number right away to potential dates. Some men get offended by this. Am I being rude? Well, Suzanne, do you mean like you're if you're talking on an app and you don't want to give out your number to someone? I'm assuming that that's what you mean, and I'm going to address that. So, no, I don't think you're being rude. This is a boundary for you. What I sometimes tell people to do is to get an alternative number, like a Google Voice number that you can use just specifically for dating. And that way, you're giving someone a number because, some people do really just want to start talking to you and get off the apps. And it doesn't necessarily mean that this is a giant red flag. This is just how they are. If someone is really, really rude about it and they're getting like nasty about it, that would be a red flag. And I would say, don't continue talking to that person. But yeah, that's something that you can do, is just get yourself a Google number. And so it's private, it will protect your privacy. And that's like, it's like your dating number. It's like the number that you can just give out and see how it goes. If it goes well with this person, then you can give them the real number. So yeah, Suzanne, no, it isn't being rude. It's perfectly understandable. So that might be a solution for you. Okay. So Bonalie's asking, what are some of the conversation starters? How to start the date? Questions to ask them? That's a good question, Bonalie. I'm assuming you're not meaning things as far as boundaries, but like how to just start a date, how to start a conversation. So when I was dating, what I did that really worked well was to just ask questions. Be really, really interested in the other person. You don't want to start off just talking about yourself, because that can kind of make you seem like you're a little bit selfish or egocentric, and so you don't want to do that. But be very interested in someone. Be genuinely interested in them and just ask them questions, Ask about their past. Ask what made them decide to start dating. One of the questions you can ask to make sure you're on the same page is, what are you looking for out of dating? And so it doesn't have to be like an interview, but just a very natural conversation, a back and forth where he's sharing a story, or she, whoever you like to date, and then you're sharing your own story. And so it's a very natural flow like that. So that's a really good thing to do on a first date, or really any date, is to be interested instead of trying to be interesting. So let me take a sip here. Okay. So I want to just keep making this point that if at any point you set a boundary and someone bails on you, they ghost, good. Good. This is not a failure. This is what we want. And I say this because I used to think that setting boundaries and someone being like, ooh, no, and running away was like, ooh, maybe I did something wrong. Maybe I shouldn't have set that boundary. Maybe I should have just kept quiet and went along with things. But this is not what we want. If you're someone who's coming from a background where you have felt taken advantage of, like people walked all over you, like you weren't able to have a voice, this is how you break the cycle. You speak your truth, you set your limits, and the people who cannot handle that will leave. And I say, good riddance, truly. So, okay, Bonelli's saying, great, yeah. You can write out, that's a really great thing to do. She's saying, I'll work that out on paper. Yeah, you can write out a couple conversation starters and make sure that they're interesting ones to you. Like, I wouldn't just pick some general ones. Make sure they're things that you actually really want to know about that person, so you can ask them. Like, for example, maybe you have an interest in cooking, and so your question would be, so what's your favorite thing to eat or cook? And then you can start a conversation about cooking, and then you share your thing. So things like that, Bonelli, will be really, really helpful. So, yeah, so back to what I was talking about as far as someone leaving. We and I include myself in this because this is how it was for me in the past. I used to be very, very afraid of offending people or pushing people away or having them not like me. And the journey for me was getting to the place where I understood that if I have certain standards, if I have certain boundaries, things that I'm not okay with, then not everybody's going to reach that standard. And that's okay. And if some people don't like me because I'm not going to sleep with them on the first date, cool. Great. I don't need them to like me because I like myself. And that's a lot of the work that I do with the women that I work with. We work on self-love. We get to the point where we love ourselves so much that, yeah, if someone doesn't like our boundary, all right, bye. See ya. On to the next person. Okay, so let me answer some questions here. So Shell's saying, what happens if you're taking it slow with someone and naturally I'm an affectionate person, but they weren't? When I brought it up that they seem distant physically, they made the remark that they're turned off from the world. Oh dear. Well, you know, Shell, that's an important data point for you. If affection is really important for you, and this is a person who is really telling you, I'm not that affectionate, it could be that this is a deal breaker, that this is an incompatibility. Only you can tell for yourself how important affection is for you. But yeah, I mean, he's really spelling it out there. I mean, my follow-up questions would be to him, well, is this something that you're working on, or that you're willing to shift to be more affectionate and see what he says? But yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. So this also comes down to boundaries too, getting clear for yourself. Is this something that I can tolerate in a relationship? Can I tolerate not getting as much affection as I want to? Or is this not going to work for me? So this whole process of dating and setting boundaries, it's a process of discernment, figuring out what works for you and what doesn't. And sometimes you know these things right away when you go into dating, and that's what we want. We want to have a certain set of things that we know for sure we're not okay with, but sometimes they come up in the moment. Like, for example, here with that guy, you know, he's saying something very clearly. So I would pay close attention to that. And thank you for that question. Okay, so let's see here. Yeah, Ronell is saying dating can be really exhausting. It can be. It really can be. And when I was dating and I was on the apps, I did have to take breaks from it for a time because, yes, it was exhausting. And if I found myself just not liking it anymore or not having fun, that's when I knew, all right, this is my own boundary. I need to take a break from this stuff. I need to take a break from dating for a couple weeks and just refresh myself, remember why I wanted to start dating in the first place, and then get back out there again. So yeah, Ronell, I do recommend taking breaks if it feels like it's just getting too exhausting. Okay, so Maya's saying, my partner went on a date, asked, it sounds like I'm on an interview. I said yes. I don't want to waste time with the wrong person. But he still doesn't answer today after 5 years why he got divorced. He says she kicked him out without an explanation. I'm afraid he still doesn't have closure there. Is this possible? Yes, Maya, it is possible. It is absolutely possible. I would be a little bit suspicious too if after, how long did you say? I think, let's see, 5 years. Yeah, and you've been with him for a long time, that he still couldn't really tell you what happened. That to me speaks to emotional unavailability. And yes, perhaps it's on his side a lack of closure, or there's still some emotional baggage there. I mean, we can't really say for sure, but yeah, that would definitely concern me too. I think that would be, if I were in your situation, I would feel a little bit hurt that my partner didn't want to share that with me. But you can do this dating process without it being like an interview. You can get your questions asked without having it like you're looking at your phone and you're just like checking off the boxes. Make sure it's more of a conversation, where it's not just like you're asking each other questions, but you're asking questions and then elaborating. You're telling a story, you're sharing something. And to make this a little bit less like an interview, you can also do more active dates. Like you can go on walks together, or you can do kind of like adventure-y dates where you're both trying something new. Like something that just popped into my head right now is like one of those escape room things. There's not a lot of time to have deep conversations in there, but you can go on that date, do something fun, do something new, and then you have the deeper conversations. But yeah, it's a fine line to ask. Make sure you're asking the right questions, the questions that you need to ask, and not having it sound like an interview. A lot of it is in your tone. If you're asking the questions and you're very serious and you're not smiling, yes, then it can feel like an interview. But if you're smiling and you're warm and you're friendly and you're asking these questions, it feels much less like an interview. So I hope this is helpful for you guys. Okay. So let me address Suzanne's question, and then I'm going to keep going here. So she's saying, I've been on many first dates and was not interested in any other dates with these men. However, they keep bothering me even when I state that I only want to be friends. How do I be assertive without hurting their feelings? So, Suzanne, if this is happening continuously, what I would ask myself is, do you truly want to be friends with these men? Or are you saying that because you don't want to hurt their feelings and you're trying to let them down in a gentle way? I suspect it might be the latter. And so if I'm going to address that from this assumption here, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but if you're doing that just to be nice and not hurt their feelings, that's actually not really helping them. What someone truly needs is honesty. They need clarity. It might hurt them in the moment to hear that you're not interested in pursuing anything with them, but that gives them the closure. That gives them the peace. All right, she's not interested in me. I'm going to move on. When you're saying to someone, well, I still want to be friends, what they usually hear is, all right, she's still open to hanging out with me. Maybe I can convince her to go out with me. Maybe I can convince her to like me. And so it actually doesn't end up working out well for either of you in the long run. So yeah, Suzanne is saying it's the latter. So this is a great question, and I'm glad you brought it up. This is where the boundaries are going to come in so handy for you. Suzanne, if you're with someone and you're just not interested in pursuing anything with them anymore, I would not suggest telling them you want to stay friends. Unless you truly, truly mean it. Unless you meet someone and you're like, wow, this guy would make a great friend, I'm just not interested in him romantically, then sure, go for it. He's also free to say no, actually, I'm really just interested in dating you. No, thank you. That can happen too. But yeah, if you're not interested in this person, be upfront about it. And I know how scary this is, and I'm going to talk in a minute about how to make this a little bit less scary. But what I used to do was, after a date, if someone asked me out again and I just wasn't feeling it, I would just say, hey, like, it was great to meet you. Wasn't really feeling a connection romantically. I wish you the best. That's it. You're not being insulting. You're not saying, I didn't like you. You're just saying, hey, it was great to connect with you. I didn't really feel it. All the best. That makes it very clear. You're not being mean. You're being clear, but also kind. So Suzanne, I hope that's helpful. You don't really ever want to encourage someone to be friends with you if that's not what you really want. Okay, so let's see here. Maya was saying, I was warm and smiling, but it seems emotionally he's not fully available. I know that as we did the healing process. Yeah, and so if you can do all the right things in this dating process, but if you're finding that you're with someone and it's just not flowing, or they're very critical, or they're not open to you, then that's probably not the right person. And so don't take all of it on yourself. If the connection isn't happening and you're showing up warm and available and interested, then it could just be it's not the right person. You're not the right match. Okay. So remember, like I said before, but I just want to be really clear on this, if someone responds poorly to your boundaries, that is indeed a red flag. That's something to be very, very concerned about, and to really take some time to think, is this the right person for me if they are not cool with my boundaries? So one of the next most important boundaries that you want to have when you're going out there and dating has to do with sending pictures. This is something that a lot of people don't always talk about, but when you're out there on the apps, unfortunately, people are going to ask for pictures, especially men. And so you want to get clear with yourself, am I comfortable sending pictures? If I am, when do I feel comfortable with that? And how do I feel comfortable doing that? When people go on the dating apps, they're often sometimes caught off guard with people asking for pictures, and they don't just mean like pictures of you smiling, they usually mean like nude pictures, right? Or pictures that are more sexual. So get clear with yourself. Do I want to send pictures? Do I not want to send pictures? Do I want to send pictures only when I'm in a intimate, close relationship, like we're dating? Or do I just not feel comfortable sending them at all? People will test you on this. They tend to push back on this and say, oh, it's not a big deal. Pay attention to that. If you've said to someone, I'm just not comfortable sending pictures, I'm sorry, and they're pushing back on that, that's a red flag. That's something to pay attention to. And probably they would not make a great, healthy partner for you. So, something that you can say is, like maybe you've decided that you only feel comfortable sending pictures when you're serious with someone, when you're in a committed relationship, and you can just say that. Like, hey, so I really only feel comfortable sending pictures when I'm dating someone. Leave it at that. See what they say. If they say, cool, all right, I understand, perfect. You can go ahead and proceed with that relationship and see where it goes. Again, if you're getting pushed back, sign that this is not the right person for you. So get clear with yourself on whether you want to send pictures or not. So the last most important boundary that you want to have when you're talking about dating is a boundary with your time. So how much time do you want to spend with someone that you're seeing? Do you want to see them every day? Do you want to see them only on the weekend? Because just like I said with all these other things, it's very easy to just fall into seeing this other person every day. Or maybe you see each other a couple times a week and you haven't really talked about it, but it's just happening. You're just going with the flow. Because time is one of the most precious resources that you have. And so get very clear going in, how do I want my dating to look? If this other person wants to spend every single day with you, are you okay with that? Or is that gonna take away from time that you need to be spending on yourself or some of the other things that you've got going on in your life? That's really important to know. And again, some people will get a little bit pushy on that. And if it's really a problem for them, like if you're someone who only wants to see the person you're dating twice a week, and they're the kind of person who wants to see you every day, and they're not going to budge on that, you guys wouldn't be compatible. And you don't need to twist yourself and change yourself completely to date them and to fit into their world. You want to find someone who already agrees with you or can just adjust a little bit and they're still okay when you're dating. So I hope this is making sense for you guys so far. Okay. Yeah, so Maya's saying, just being friends. I encountered guys who were friends with many women. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, Bonali's saying maybe thank that person for the date and let that person know I don't see any future. Yes, perfect. That's a really nice way to let someone know that you're not interested, but that you did appreciate going on a date with them and meeting them. Yeah, I love that. Okay. So I wanted to bring this up because this is so important too. The secret to being able to set really healthy boundaries is to feel worthy of them, to love yourself enough to be able to set the boundary. And I talked about this I touched on this a little bit earlier in the beginning, but the way you get to the point where you're not so scared to set the boundaries, where you know that you deserve to have a good relationship, and if someone is not coming up to your level, you can let them go. This is about loving yourself, and this is one of the things that I work really hard on with the women that I work with in my program, and by the time they come out of the program, they're very easily able to walk away from a situation that isn't serving them when it comes to dating. They know how to set these boundaries, and they can bounce ideas off me too, but loving yourself is one of the most important things that you can do to get yourself to the place where you can set boundaries. So I often get this question, what does loving yourself look like exactly? It looks like allowing yourself to feel how you feel, because if we're not in touch with how we feel, it's very difficult to set boundaries, right? We have to know how we feel about something in order to know if we like it or not. So letting ourselves feel how we feel, healing from the past, which means releasing a lot of the baggage we've been carrying around that makes us feel unworthy, or like we need to let people walk all over us, or everyone needs to like us. Releasing all of that helps you get to the point where you can set these boundaries. It's really life-changing. When you learn how to do boundaries properly, it completely changes your life. So if this is something that you're interested in, if you want to work on loving yourself and getting to the point where you can have good boundaries and you can go out there and date, let me know. Send me a comment. You can comment Living Free, Finding Love. That's the name of my program. Or you can send me a message. Because one of the things that I have learned in this journey is that boundaries are super attractive, actually, to healthy people. I did not know that. I came into dating thinking, well, all right, I'm going to have my boundaries, and you know what? Some people, they're really not going to like it, but this is just what I have to do. No, actually, the healthy people were really attracted to the fact that I had boundaries, that I could say no to certain things, that I could set limits. And you guys, I was shocked. I was totally shocked that this was the case. But I later, like now I'm with my partner, I asked him about it. I said, so what, it seems like you really liked the fact that I had boundaries. And he said, yeah, because I have my own boundaries. And so I want to be with someone who is going to set their own limits and also respect mine. It feels safe to be with someone who has boundaries and who can set limits, rather than being with someone who just lets you walk all over them. Now, this is coming from a healthy person. A person who is not healthy for you is not going to feel this way. They're not going to like your boundaries, and good, you can say goodbye to them. But keep this in mind when you're going out there into the dating world. Healthy people will like your boundaries. And yeah, because Bonali's saying boundaries are built on confidence. They are, and people find confidence very attractive. So just know that. If you're setting a limit, don't be afraid that you're going to turn off people or they're going to think badly of you. The right people are going to love it. So I'm going to stay on here a few more minutes. If you guys have some questions, I'm going to answer them. Ronell's saying when you know and respect yourself, it's easy to set boundaries. Yeah, Ronell, and that's exactly what we work on in my program. We get you to the point where you truly feel on a very deep level that you can set these boundaries because you deserve it. You deserve to have a really great relationship and not settle for anything less. So Maya's saying boundaries really quickly help you love yourself. Exactly. Before working with you, I was afraid to set them. Now I tested setting them, and the response is the opposite. Yeah, Maya was someone that worked with me, and she got to a point where she could set boundaries, and she might not have gotten the response that she had hoped. But yes, just getting to the point where you can say, this is not okay for me. It feels so good. It's so loving of yourself. And for so many of us, including myself, we were conditioned to take care of other people to the place where we what's the word I'm looking for? Where we denied our own needs. And so that's what we want to come into balance. We still can care about other people, but we need to take our own needs into account and set our own boundaries. Okay, so Karen was saying, I was so incredibly attracted to my last partner that I checked out on myself. Yeah, Karen, that happens. That happens a lot. And that's why it's so important to get clear on what our boundaries are going in, so that we're not totally swept away by this person. We know, all right, this was my boundary. And even if they're like the most attractive person in the world, I'm still not going to budge on my boundary. That's self-love. And it does take some work to get there, but it absolutely can be done. So Bonali's saying, I'm unsure about the safety of online dating apps. That's a really great point to bring up. So the reality is there are predators out there on dating apps. There are scammers. There are people who are looking to take advantage of you. There are also good people out there. So your job here is discernment. And if you're really struggling with this, Bonali, I highly recommend getting some professional support. Having an objective person that can tell you, yeah, this looks like a scam, this doesn't sound good. That can be really, really helpful in getting back out there and dating. But, online dating, it's kind of just like the real world too. There's scammers out there in the real world. There's also good people out there. So again, your job is just discernment. If something seems fishy, like if you're talking to someone and they don't want a video chat, or they've only sent you one picture and it's the same picture over and over again, that's a warning sign. You can Google signs of scammers online, and you'll get a whole list of things to look out for. But so with anything, just be careful, be cautious. Take your time getting to know someone. Don't send anyone money. That's a big one. A lot of these scammers, they're looking for money, and they're looking for vulnerable people who are lonely and who will send them money. Don't send anyone money. But yeah, like I said, get some professional support to help you walk through it, or just someone to talk to who really knows what is going on out there in the dating world and what to look out for. But don't be too afraid to put yourself out there, because like I said, there are really great people out there. I know so many people who have found great relationships from online dating. So you just have to, wow, I'm struggling with words today. You have to pick the wheat from the chaff. Is that the saying? I think it is. But yeah, it can be, you can find love out there. You just have to be careful. All right, ladies, I have gone on for a while here. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching. I will be back next week. Next week I'm going to be doing an Ask Me Anything. So get your questions ready. It's going to be completely dedicated to answering your specific questions. There'll be no specific topic that I am addressing today. And thank you guys so much for tuning in and participating. I'll talk to you soon.